So art has been your thing for a long time then. Were they good snowmen you made?
Oh, they were amazing. Yes, and thank you for having me.
You are so welcome. So tell us then, what exactly is a community arts specialist?
Well, I have worked in the community, bringing out the creative element of people for many years now. My background's adult education, and I've worked with school children, people in sheltered housing, ages 3 months to 103. So right across the board.
It really is, in some cases, using art as an outlet to deal with other things going on in your life.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not an art therapist, and that's something very different. What I do creative therapy, and that preempts any real need. So I've had students that will come to me, and it's just a case of emptying your head. You know, we have busy lives, and it's come and have a couple of hours, empty your head, just fill it with creativity so that you've got that energy to go on for the next week.
I suppose in some ways it's like being mindful but being very active at the same time.
Very much so, yes.
And as you said, you've worked with a huge variety of people over the years. Can you give us an idea of some of the stories of people you've worked with that you've really sort of seen a difference in them?
I think actually one was going back many years in Manchester, where there was a lady that she'd had a heart attack, and she'd been coming to just card making classes. And I say just card making classes because I believe it's much more than that. And she'd had some time off, and then she found it quite difficult to get back. And as a group, you know, I encouraged the group to send cards over time just to keep in contact. And after a few months, it actually transpired that we did get her back to class, and she came to me afterwards and said, look, she said, I was actually suicidal. She said, you know, she was socially isolated, she was sat at home, she'd not been to class for quite a while, but that engagement with the students keeps saying, look, you know, we're still here for you, come back, join in. And she actually was suicidal, and she said, and that saved me. And that was a card making class.
That's amazing. And it must have helped you in some ways, because you've really put yourself through a lot of education over the years as well, haven't you? And I know you've had Alzheimer's awareness training, mental health awareness training as well. So that must give you a slightly different grounding than others.
Yes, I do. I've worked a lot with mental health over the years, and you know, we've actually gone in and we've done mosaic trails across where and we actually measure, you know, how people feel at the beginning of the session to how they feel at the end, so that you can actually see that they do feel markedly better by the end of a session, creating something not only in a safe, non-threatening environment, but creating something that they've got a sense of achievement that other people will enjoy, because then these mosaic trails they'll go out for the wider community to enjoy. Some
people think, oh, this sort of thing isn't for me because I'm not arty in any way at all. I'm going to guess that you're going to say, Debbie, that doesn't really matter. It's just all about the experience, really. Yeah, I would. I think it's like anything. Most of the time, we all have an inner critic, and most of the time somebody has told us that we can't do something. And we believe it, and it's usually at school, and it's, you know, it's probably an offhand comment from a teacher that says, oh, you're not very good at that, you know, they've gone off to, you know, to do whatever, and the child's believed it, and they've kept it suppressed all their life. Now, I get a lot of people that say, I'm not very creative, and it's almost a fear. As long as you're willing to give it a go, I would not say to anybody, you've got to come to this creative class and I'll teach you and I'll get it out of you. If you don't want to do it, that's absolutely fine, because it's not everybody's cup of tea. Some people would much rather go windsurfing, do you know what I mean? And that's not my cup of tea. But if, you know, I will get the creativity out of anybody that really would like to give it a go. And, do you know, it doesn't have to be good. Because, you know, nothing has to be good. We always get better the more that we practice something. So, you know, just give it a go. So what sort of things are you doing from the Greneby Studios then? Well, at the moment, I've just finished actually a big mosaic mural for a private house that I took over to Cheshire a couple of weeks ago. So I've just finished that. I'm working on some glass fusings at the moment, which is putting things in a kiln and making it very different. Now, I've got a couple of things there. Excuse this rattling.
There's nothing wrong with rattling. Shows you've got stuff.
We like
with
a good
you.
Rattle. Now this is fusing glass. Do you want to feel that? Yeah. Now what that does when that goes into a kiln. I love these.
They are so beautiful.
These are wind chimes that I've got. People can make on my workshops. But can you see how the kiln actually softens the glass in?
Oh yeah, it's completely different. So the glass, I've got a piece of glass in my hand which is quite rough. and yet when they're sort of this is created, it's beautifully smooth.
It's
Obviously
gorgeous,
this will
isn't
be
it?
video that we'll put on the portal, so you can hear the wind chime, but you will be able to see it on the portal later as well. So is it quite a complicated process?
Not really. I mean, you do need a kiln for it. And I must say, within 3 weeks of moving back into the studio at Granby, my kiln died.
No.
Honestly, it was like, oh my gosh. So the kiln died. So then, fortunately, my husband is very, very supportive. So he's got me this bigger kiln, which I was quite happy with. It's a bit bigger. So I can get more bits and pieces in there. So the glass goes into the kiln, can go up as high as like 800 degrees centigrade. And there's just, obviously, there's different elements you've got to learn from it. But, for example, with the mosaic and that, I've got to keep the glass separate. So I've got one section that's just mosaic glass and another section that's full of the glass fusing glass, because it's very, very different.
Right, and you've brought in some examples of the mosaic work. These are stunning, aren't they, Beth? So there's some numbers, house numbers, I presume. You can also use them for anything, I guess.
Yeah, anything you like.
But some of the pieces within the mosaic are quite intricate. You've got like these little flowers and things. Do you make all the individual pieces as well?
Not the millefiori. The millefiori, which is Italian for thousands of flowers, is made into big long rods, and then you chop it up, and then you just
like
insert
a stick
them
of
in.
rock.
It is, yeah. Although I do imagine that they sort of learned it from the Italians. But it is made exactly the same way as a stick of rock is made.
I can see how this would actually be great sort of psychologically, because first of all the colours and everything are so bright that you can't help but sort of smile looking at it, but the sort of intricacies of it, the focus you would probably need to make sure that every piece fits in the right position and just sort of all comes together in that way. It's beautiful.
The only problem I'd have having a door number made out of that is I wouldn't ever get in because I just want to touch it. It looks so tactile.
It is tactile.
It really is.
Yeah.
And so anybody can have a go at these sort of things. You have got a special workshop coming up, sort of themed for this time of year.
Yeah, now that's nothing to do with glass or mosaic. That's silk painting. And a couple of years ago, I did some workshops in schools to explain to the children about World War One, and it was quite a challenging idea to think about how to do that without frightening them. So I thought I would bring in the element of animals, and it occurred to me that not many people know that purple poppies actually is a sign of the respect for the loss of lives that animals gave us during the wars. Now, I always wear my red poppy because nothing would ever, stop me from doing that, because, yes, we need to remember them. I also wear a white poppy for peace, but the purple poppy, the lesser-known one, is for animals. So this workshop at the Hub is a free workshop, the Hub in Port Erin, and it's going to be a silk banner, 100% silk, and people just invited to paint in the red, the white and the purple poppies, just as a community activity, and that banner will then get to be used by the Hub to do whatever they want with. Now, there are limited places, so they would need to phone the Hub to book in, so it should be a nice project.
It's another one of those things, isn't it? Everything we're talking about with you seems to revolve around the idea of community, which is fabulous, because it does seem like it's one of those things that is a little bit lacking now, when at least when you compare what our society is like to maybe what it was in sort of like the 40s or 50s, when people were sort of in and out of each other's houses and sharing things. So you sort of need these things now to bring people out of their homes and get together, don't you?
Yeah, very much so. I mean, there are lots of people living close to each other, but we live such busy lives. It's very, we do forget to stop sometimes, don't we, and actually talk to other people, because we've got to get the bus, we've got to get the car, we've got to do this, we've got to do that. But community is so important. And I don't know whether you've heard of Stone Soup, an old folk tale, which is one of my favourites. Oh,
I've remembered it now.
You got it, haven't you? Stone Soup.
Go on, then. You can relay it, but yeah.
Oh, I love Stone Soup. I mean, it's a folk story that, all over the world they've got the different types. But basically, you've got a little old lady going into a village, and there's a stream, and there's all these houses, and there's been a famine. And the little old lady knocks on the first door. She's got her coat around and she's got a trolley behind her. And she says, I hope you can help me, but I'm starving. Have you got any food? And they're saying, look, we're really, really sorry, but all we've got is this big carrot and we need this to feed our own family. We're very sorry, but we wish you luck. And the old lady goes on and she knocks on each door, and each door's the same story, but with a potato or an onion. So after a short while, she sets up and she puts a fire in the middle of the village. The stream's passing by, and she's got this big pan that she fills with the water from the stream. She throws a stone in it. And after a while, there's steam rising from this soup. And one by one, the villagers come out and go, what are you doing? She said, I'm making some stone soup. Do you want to try? And the first villager goes, Oh, yeah, it needs something. She goes, it needs a carrot. I've got a carrot. Let me bring this carrot. So the carrot goes in. The next thing, the person with the onion goes in. And before you know it, we've got a big vat of stone soup that the whole village has enjoyed together. I mean, for me, that's just life. And I think that everyone should be like that.
Isn't it great? I haven't heard that since I was a kid.
It's beautiful,
yeah,
isn't it?
It's a lovely story. I remember that. While we're speaking about food things, can I bring something in?
Yes, I know what you're going to say.
I was very excited about
You
this.
were.
You don't just do things with glass, you sometimes bake cakes. And you used to bake cakes for the BBC, didn't you?
Yeah, I used to, yeah.
Please tell us about a particular cake, which I did mention to you I was very excited about.
Oh, yeah, this was in another lifetime ago in the 80s. I had a wedding cake shop with my mum, and we used to do lots of novelty cakes, and we started doing cakes with the BBC, but yeah, my favourite one had to be the TARDIS. And it was, I don't know why, I think it was on the Gardener's programme. I don't know why it was on this particular programme, but it was like a huge sponge cake in the shape of a TARDIS, and in each of the windows I hand painted out food colour each of the doctors, and that was for the 25th anniversary of Doctor Who.
So it was for an actual BBC party, was it?
It must have been, yeah, it must have been, but yeah.
Cool. You also have 2 Oscars. Tell us about that.
I do. I have my very best Oscar, my son. He's wonderful. He's 19. He's living across, and the other Oscar, it's not a real Oscar, but I'm very proud of it. It was presented to me by the volunteers of a community project I was involved in a few years ago.
Oh,
and this community project, I should say, she's being very humble about it. She wrote a film. And it's a screenplay for a film, and it got made. So she's actually written it, and she's on IMDb and everything. I'm very excited about that.
IMDb.
It doesn't matter. You're on there. The other thing is, Debbie, and we should probably talk about this, your obsession with glue.
I know. How sad is that?
We should probably explain this, actually.
Yeah.
It's not as bad as it sounds. But you do get excited about various kinds. And you once met, and this was an exciting moment for you, you met a glue scientist.
I know. I was out with my husband. We'd been out for a meal, and we were new to the area in Cheshire a good few years ago. And this poor guy looked at me, and you say, "Oh, hello, how are you? And what do you do for a living?" And he sort of went. He'd obviously said this to so many people, and so many people had obviously just gone away, And he gone, "I'm a glue scientist." And I went, "Oh, really?" And we sat and talked glue for 2 hours. I was so excited that, hubby was there rolling his eyes, and I'm going, "Yes, this is great."
I presume this is because of the arts that you make.
Yes, because you can do so many things with it. It's fabulous.
Right, we've got plenty of time to talk about some of those before the end of the programme. But if anyone has been listening, and particularly, first of all, the Silk Workshop, which you say there are limited places, how can people sign up for that?
If they get in touch with the hub, and they'll be able to book their free place there.
And in terms of everything else that you do and the sort of working with glass and whatever, have you got anything else coming up that people can get involved in?
I do have a glass fusing workshop coming up, but they are paid workshops. And I've got one starting on the 1st of November and one on the 3rd of November, and they're 6-week glass fusing courses where people can learn how to make gorgeous glass.
These beautiful wind chimes. There you go. You could make your door numbers.
I could, yeah. And you've got some glass cutting tools with you. I really want to have a go.
Do you want to have a go?
Yeah,
I'll show you what to do.
Should we cut some? Okay, let's. Because you'll be able to hear this, won't you? Because it'll make a nice crunchy sound.
Well, what I'm going to do it in this bag because we're in a group. We're not wearing goggles, and I love my trusty cutters. So basically, whether you're left or right-handed, you place the glass between the 2 wheels. I'll put it in some glass. Let me lift it up. So,
nice
satisfying.
sound.
Very satisfying, isn't it? There
Yeah.
you go. Have a go.
Oh, look at that. I'm just going to cut some glass.
Okay.
Don't mind me, Beth. I'm just going to cut a piece of glass here.
Okay. What colour
Any
are you going
bit.
for?
Any of those, yeah.
Any of these? Okay,
Yeah.
let's see.
Just
I wanna
making
go
sure you
for-
do it in the bag so that the glass doesn't go flying everywhere.
I've taken this
Okay.
piece because it's interesting looking, so I'm going to put it between the 2. Okay, and then
Put it in the bag.
how specific
go.
can you be with your cutting?
You can.
Okay, ready?
Go on.
Did you hear it?
Oh, that was a nice gentle
Clunk.
piece.
Clunk. It went clunk.